it is the pre-show. Finally got that intro video done. I had some extra time today. I was like, I'm just going to do it. I keep talking about it. I need to do it. So we got it done.
Have you tried the AI video tools yet?
Not like, have I played around with them? Yes, but I haven't really like leaned into them you know what I mean?
I fed a video or like a still of a pebble and I asked it to like animate it and it did like 2 seconds of good work and then it started going crazy. But I cut it to 2 seconds and it looks fine. And then
yeah, right. Just a quick 2-second loop. Yeah, that sounds about right. It gets kind of there and then just goes completely off the rails. Yeah. I mean, I use what is it called? Opus Clip, which is kind of an AI video tool, but it's more like taking a look at like a full video that you have and then breaking it up into like social bits and pieces. And it does an okay job of that.
Opus video.
Yeah. Opus Clip. Yeah. Opus Clip. It's all right. I mean, with all those kinds of tools, I'm always like, does it save me time? Yeah, but like it creates time in other ways too. And I don't know that I necessarily saved any time, Yeah, this is what it is. Folks who are joining right now who have no idea who we are talking with, who's on the screen, Eric Migikovsky, who is the guy behind Pebble. And if you all are fans of the Pebble smartwatch from well more than a decade ago at this point, Eric's the guy behind it. And there's big news that we're going to be talking about on the show that Pebble's coming back. So we're going to talk with Eric about that on the show today. Pebble's back, baby. But it's 5:03 and we have some people connecting on the live stream. It looks like the number has ramped up. So, I mean, I'm good to begin if y'all are, and then we can kind of kick this show into gear. What do y'all think? Feeling comfy?
I think I'm ready.
All right, cool. And then, Eric, I have a link to your blog post. I also have a link, of course, to repebble.com. So I can kind of show those off while we're talking about all the things. Any questions?
Just to be clear, do you got your Pebble watch on right now? Which one? Nice.
When I was creating some social posts for this, I went digging for a good image and found one that I think you're wearing like 3 or 4 of them on your wrist.
I know the one you're talking about. Yeah.
Those were the days.
I think that was a Wired UK or Wired Europe thing. And
I think so.
Yeah, I think at that stage of my life, I didn't know that you could tell people what you want. And I was like, fine, whatever. Let's do it.
Nothing wrong with it. It was honestly, when I saw it, I was like, that's kind of the perfect image. It really like encapsulates the fact that this is the guy behind Pebble. I like it.
I did have some good fun poked at me from that. For sure.
Okay. Well, I'm sorry to rehash that then. All right, I'm going to go ahead and let's see here. I actually need to do one more thing before I remove you from the stage and we get the show started. Let's see, is that the right one? Yes, it is. Okay, cool. So I'm going to go ahead and remove you from the stage momentarily. We'll get the top of the show going, and then we'll bring you in, and we'll talk until about the 30-minute mark, and then let you go. And just super excited to have you here again. Thank you, Eric. Appreciate it. All right. And then, Mishaal, I will go ahead and remove you from the stage, which makes me very, very large. Let's see here. All right, everybody, stand by. We're going to kick this show into gear. Here we go. Hello, everybody, and welcome to, once again, another episode of Android Faithful, your weekly source for the latest news, hardware, and apps for the world of Android. I am one of your hosts, Jason Howell, joined by...
Mishaal Rahman, your other guest for tonight.
That's right, our other host for tonight.
Other host.
Yeah,
I'm downplaying my role here on the show.
Don't do that, especially when there's only 2 of us leading the show tonight.
No, you're doing all the work, Jason. People have no idea how much work you do behind the scenes to actually make this show run whenever you're teeing everything.
Well, I got to give also you credit because A, you write so much material that we end up talking about, and B, you throw so much of it into our planning doc that I rarely have to go digging for stories. It's like, okay, Mishaal's got that covered. I'm just going to make the rundown look all right. So you know what? We're both awesome. Good to see you,
And so is
Mishaal.
Ron, and so is Win, who couldn't join us today.
I was just gonna say, yeah, Ron and Win are both out. Win is traveling. Ron is, I think, on a
Also
flight back to New
traveling.
York. Yeah, also traveling. So could not be here today. But earlier today, I was doing my new kind of podcast gig with Tom Merritt, DTNS Briefing. And our kind of top story on that show was the news that Pebble is back. And those of you who have been, following smartphones and smartwatches, since the early days, and let's define the early days as like the 2010s and beyond, are almost certainly very familiar with Pebble as one of the earliest, I'd say, kind of trend-setting wearable devices. I believe it started on Kickstarter.
Yep.
And really, like, over the years, I've been amazed continually at the ongoing support and passion that Pebble fans have for the brand, even though it's kind of been out of commission for, I don't know, 7 or 8 years now.
A little over 8 years, yeah.
Yeah, right around 8 years, right? I never had a Pebble smartwatch, but I have had plenty of smartwatches, and I think it's safe to say that Pebble defined to a certain degree, like, there's Pebble DNA in every wearable because it was there so early. And so that's a huge testament to the Pebble brand. And joining us to talk all about it is the guy behind it, because there's big news in Pebble land today. Eric Migikovsky is the founder. And also, Eric, we've had you on this show as well as All About Android a number of times over the years for some of your other efforts. But I think it's really special to get you back here on the day that Pebble was announced to be coming back.
How's it going, everyone?
It's fantastic.
Yep.
Today's an awesome day
Good
for
week.
you. I have to imagine you've had this marked on your calendar and you've been waiting for it, I guess, right?
Well, I didn't know, and I was telling Mishaal, like, I didn't know when. I had a feeling this was going to happen. I had a feeling, but I didn't know the date. And only last week I heard, it's going to happen soon.
So, okay. All right. So then let's take a step back, I guess, and first let people know who haven't been following the news today, kind of what it is that's happened that you were waiting for, which I think I believe your announcement is really twofold. It's a hardware announcement, yes. But it's also a software announcement. It's kind of two prongs, and they're both equally exciting. But where would you like to? What's that? Yeah,
I could break it down.
It.
So Pebble has been, so the quick abbreviated history is that Pebble launched on Kickstarter in 2012. We sold just around 2 million watches over the span of 4 years. As you all know, the company shut down at the end of 2016, and most of the IP was sold to Fitbit, as well as half the Pebble team went to work at Fitbit on the Fitbit watches. And then Fitbit got acquired by Google, and all of a sudden, all roads lead to Google.
Yes. Right.
I, have been using, so after Pebble sold, the people who took up the charge for maintaining the Pebble App Store, the Pebble community, the Pebble kind of ecosystem was a team of people called Rebel, the Rebel Alliance, REBBLE.
Love it.
And they helped keep all the Pebbles alive, like the App Store, the timeline services have kept running to this day because of a small team of volunteers. And because of that, people continued to use their Pebble after the company that made it ceased to exist. And including me, I've been wearing a Pebble so proto Pebble I started wearing in 2009 to 2010. So I've been wearing it for a while, and I kept it on my wrist for the last 8 years. I tried everything else, though. I tried every single other smartwatch, Pixel, Apple Watch, Samsung, Garmin, you name it. I tried it, but I returned them all because they just didn't do it. I have a very specific set of needs. I'm a very particular person.
So let me just ask you specifically. I wanted to cut in. Like, why do so many people go to such great lengths to keep Pebble alive? what makes it so great that, for our listeners who have never heard of Pebble, never used a Pebble, why do people still love them to this day?
Yeah, you've tried all the competition, and most people, like, the competition is what they know. So I'm curious, what Mishaal said, like, what is it that's so different that you weren't finding and that people love about it?
I think this is a broader thought about like the state of the gadget world today. Most gadgets are made by, one of three companies: Samsung, Google, Apple.
Mm-hmm.
And it's partially because these companies control the platforms and the phones that we basically all use. Pebble came from a time when it was still possible for small companies to build a full-featured product, even though they didn't have OS level integration. And that is, it was a forcing function for us. It was a constraint because we didn't have, we didn't own the OS. We weren't the phone that you connected to. We kind of had to play to our strengths. And we didn't, Pebble watches didn't do everything. They weren't
Mm-hmm.
a phone on your wrist. They were this almost single purpose or like very few purposed gadget that did a few things really, really well. And if you look at our first Kickstarter campaign, which you're pulling up right now,
Mm-hmm.
we basically, we stated exactly what we were going to build here, and then we built it. We wanted to have an e-paper smartwatch that had a really long battery life, measured in the days, if not weeks, an always-on e-paper screen, which means that it's not emitting light, it's reflecting light. And that's a really big deal, because if you look at OLED screens or what's in smartwatches today, they're always pushing light out, which in my opinion is really distracting. It also makes it harder to glance at. And at night, you kind of don't want to have this glowing thing on your wrist, all the time. So super long battery life, e-paper screen, fairly simple set of features. We focused on making it easy to tell the time. Shocking. See your notifications, set an alarm, see your calendar, control your music. That was a big one. People love that there's these buttons on the side of Pebble that you could just, if you got your headphones in, you just reach down, press the button, play, pause, skip track. You don't have to look at the screen. You just touch.
Yeah, the tactile approach, right? We've lost a certain connection to purpose-built buttons that do things in the kind of pursuit of, touchscreen is the next big thing. Everything's got to be a touchscreen, and now there seems to be kind of a little bit of a reversal, be it touchscreens in automotive or touchscreens on wearables and stuff. So yeah, it could be the right time for that reversal.
The fourth thing is that we had a very quirky design, both the physical hardware as well as the operating system. We didn't take ourselves too seriously. We were, you'd press you'd press a button on the watch and all of a sudden, a bird would fly out, or like the icon for charging was a coffee cup filling up. It was fun. It was a little bit weird. It was casual. It didn't, you'd look down and maybe, you'd appreciate something and just like smile at it.
My goodness, there you are.
Ooh,
hey, we've all aged. We're all 15 years
old. Go to the second Kickstarter.
I'll have to pull that up. Yeah.
Oh, and then the fifth thing, of course, is that it was hackable. It says it right there in the title, like Pebble was hackable. It still is. If you go in the subreddit r/Pebble, there's posts of people building apps for Pebble 8 years later, which is wild. And I think that allowed, so we had an app store, people could post apps, watch faces. There were 20, 30,000 watch faces on the app store. And here, I'll show you what I'm wearing today. I'm wearing a, what's the graphic artist that did the soup cans? Warhol. So I've got an Andy Warhol watch face on. So it's 4 clocks that have different colors. Yeah.
And so which Pebble is that you have on your wrist right now?
This is a really scuffed up you can see all the scuffs here. This is
Yeah.
a Pebble Time Steel, a very
Nice.
lived in 10-year-old Pebble Time Steel.
And still
Still working.
rocking it. Still
working.
working.
And that's
And
kind of what we'll get to. Like the software works.
yeah. Well, and so people, super fans of Pebble, have been doing exactly what you've been doing, have been kind of elongating the lifespan of these devices, even though they're not officially or haven't been officially supported until now, which shows that there's a really dedicated user base to it. And now we're at a point to where, you know, kind of where I think you're leading, which is your announcement that new hardware is coming. The operating system has been open sourced by Google, which it sounds like you, I don't know if you had to convince them or if you just had to like knock on the right door and be like, hey, come on, like, why not? And it happened. But people aren't going to have to, unless they want to, you know, strap a 10-year-old Pebble smartwatch to their wrist. They can revitalize it with a newer one. Tell us a little bit about what people can expect.
I, mostly for my own sake, had been searching for a replacement just in case, my last Pebble died. I changed the batteries on all of these, but one wrong smash and lose another Pebble.
Yeah.
I tried everything and nothing had that set of features that I truly wanted. I tried Garmin, I tried, the Amazfit Bip, and nothing had the right combo. And I've been worried about this for years. I've been thinking, like, what happens? And I always thought, like, oh, someone's going to come along and make something that just does exactly what Pebble did, because the documentation was right there. Like, you could see it. There's a community. We posted it on Kickstarter. You could just copy the Kickstarter, but no one did. And I got more and more worried. And at some point, I was like, oh, fine. I guess I have to make more watches. But the problem is, to make a Pebble, you need three things. You need great hardware that follows that kind of core philosophy. You need great software, and you need a community. And it turns out the hardware is not that hard. Back in the day, 10, 15 years ago, no one made smartwatches. And so when we first had to build Pebble, not only were we designing and creating what a smartwatch would be, but we had to teach the factories how to make smartwatches, teach them what characteristics to have, how to test for waterproofing, all that kind of stuff. Fast forward another 10, 15 years, every factory makes smartwatches. Everyone's making a smartwatch. And so it's much easier for me to go to a factory and say, here's the specifications that I want. Here's what I want it to look like. Here's the software. Can you help make it? And so the hardware didn't turn out to be as hard as I thought. The hard part was the software. So Pebble OS, the operating system that runs on Pebble, was made by a fantastic team of product developers, product designers, engineers, quality assurance people, testers, and the community who used it, for the last 10 years. It would be very hard to reproduce that. It would cost millions of dollars, and it would take time. Like, there's no way, you can't fast forward that. Even if you know what it should look like, even if we copied the pixels, even if we looked at the UI, it would still take months, if not years, to reproduce that from scratch.
And even if you did reproduce it, you would lose that decade plus the community that you built up with the application support. So
yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I mean, theoretically, you could build perfect,
make it fully compatible.
Yeah, we actually there was an engineer who has been working on a binary compatible operating system that could run Pebble apps to kind of keep them going, and so that, like, it would have been possible, but it just would have been so much work. And so
yeah,
it's funny. So I was talking to some other engineers, ex-Pebble engineers, and they were like, "Oh, I sketched out what we could do if we wanted to rebuild this operating system." And I was like, "What if we just ask Google to open source it?"
Sometimes you just gotta ask. All you gotta do is ask.
And I think it's funny because, like, an engineer, I'm like a software engineer, will always attack the problem with the tools that they have. They can code. So, like, let's code this thing. Let's get it built. But I can't code. I'm an engineer who can't code. And so my tools are sending emails or texting people. That's how I build things. And that's what I did. I texted some people, I emailed some people. And a year later, Google released the operating system after a tremendous amount of work by some Googlers who, this wasn't their job. They were doing this out of the sheer goodness of their heart.
That's amazing.
And they did it after their work. They did it, and they dealt with, the lawyers and the trademark people and the copyright. And you could just imagine all of the red tape that you have to go through in order to take a piece of code that was written by a company that was acquired by another company that was eventually acquired by you. Like, think of how wild that would be. And you're sitting in, like, I can imagine sitting in meetings trying to say, like, why are we doing this? Why we're Google? Why are we doing this? Like, it's great for the community and it will look great, but like, why are we doing that? And so they persevered, and I'm so thankful to them, to those Googlers who did that, and to Google kind of as a whole for doing this.
That's amazing. Like I have to imagine, like maybe this is just the story that I want to, see in my head or whatever, that some of those people that were working so hard to make this happen over the last year, like maybe there wasn't an intense amount of kind of reason or rationale for Google to do it from a business perspective. But I have to imagine some of the people on those team were like, oh yeah, I had a Pebble. I loved the Pebble. Yes. Like, let's just make this happen.
And they did.
And they did. That's amazing.
Right. And I was hopeful and I was faithful, that it was going to happen, but you never know until the GitHub goes live. And on Monday at noon, GitHub went live.
So you knew that this was going to happen eventually. Now I understand what you were saying earlier, because in my head, I just kind of envisioned you working closely with the team and, all right, we're getting ready to make the announcement, blah, blah, blah. But it was really, you kind of convinced them or talked to them into something, and then it was in their hands and you had no idea it was going to happen until suddenly it was today.
I don't work at Google. I'm not a Googler, right. But I am, I'm a fan.
You're pretty close to this project, even if you don't work at Google anymore. Your DNA is all over it.
Yeah,
that's amazing. That is super cool. That's got to feel really good. What is it about modern wearables that you don't see that you think that you can bring back or bring into the market with this like redux of Pebble, be it the OS, be it the hardware or whatever? But what are some of the things that you wish you had seen in the wearables that you weren't, that Pebble could fill?
I thought it was funny. I was the Pebble Twitter account still has its kind of subtitle up, and it says, "Wearables with brains for people with heart." And I think that's a pretty good summation of what Pebble is. It's a community, it's a physical watch, it's software, and it's the experience of using it. And not to get too nostalgic, but like that was a special feeling. And there's a couple companies and products that evoke that, but I'm excited to keep the torch alive.
Yeah.
So speaking of which, you did announce that you plan to build new hardware running these newly open source Pebble OS. Can you tell us a bit more about what you envision going into this new watch?
Mm-hmm.
So, like, you need those three pieces, and I am going to make the hardware happen and invest in supporting the open source Pebble OS and the community. Mostly because I want to get one, but also because I think there's a lot of people who are like me and have a very peculiar set of requirements when it comes to which smartwatch they want. And I'll be the first to say that this is not going to be a watch for everyone.
Mm.
We're not trying to build, what the big guys do, which is one single product that tries to be a little bit of this and a little bit of that and something for everybody. We are going to be unabashedly not for everybody. And that'll be okay. People will have to opt in. There's a button on the website, where you can say, do you want one or do you not want one? And I think we're going to ask that question. We're going to say, if you want this type of product, then you should get one. but we're going to be very upfront and say, if you want these other features, we're not planning to do that. Like, that's not in the DNA. That's not in the cards. Sorry. And hey, the operating system is open source, so you could go and build your own. That's like part of the fun part. And you can adjust the operating system. Before, you couldn't change the operating system. If you had a problem with Pebble, you could complain on Twitter and hopefully get, my attention or something like that. And then we would, change the software. But now or if you're a programmer, or if you're someone who just has access to Claude Sonnet and can, do AI programming, you could make the change yourself. I love that. Our Pebbles won't be locked down. There won't be like a check. You can load your own firmware on and have fun.
I mean, it's been over a decade since you released your last Pebble watch. Given that time, and you spoke about, being able to make adjustments freely, is there anything you'd like to change or add to this new slate of Pebble watches that, you think would do better this time around, or you don't like from the previous generation?
So here's the crazy part. I am, at all my companies, the most prolific bug reporter. It's written down. So at Beeper, by like a factor of 2 or 3, I reported the most bugs. At Pebble, we had like 180 people, and I think I still schooled every single person. I have an eye for what I like and what I don't like. And if I don't like something, I'm going to try to fix it. And the remarkable part is that the firmware, Pebble OS, on our Pebbles has not been updated since December 5th, 2016. I don't run into that many bugs.
That's impressive.
And I have a pretty high bar. Like I told you, like I love finding bugs. There are not too many bugs. And I think that that's a testament to the team, to the quality of the engineering work, to the quality of the testing work, to the quality of the community for reporting all those bugs. And it's a reminder that software can be done. You don't get that reminder that often. Like,
no,
you see a terrible thing on iOS, which is that old software falls off of the App Store. The Pebble app is not on the App Store. I guess that's true on Android as well, but you have side loading and, but in firmware, in hardware, you don't get that same level of what's called bit rot, where you use a dependency or you use a library or you use a module or whatever, and you pull it in and then something changes and now they're incompatible and they don't talk to each other, or like the Android version goes up, but you have to rev up your API number. On hardware, you don't have to do that because the software runs entirely on the watch. It's fully encapsulated. It means that there's no way for like the outside world to negatively kind of impact the software that's running here. It still has to talk the same protocol to get to the phone, but it still works. So there's a few tweaks here and there, but I was starting to write a list because now this is a lot more real. On Monday, when it started feeling real, everything was coming together. I opened a new document and I was like typing in like, what do I want to change? I think I have like 2 things or 3 things. I can't even. I type them in. I can't even remember what they are. Like, I know what I want to do. I spent the last 3 years working on chat, and chat was not as big when Pebble was around. And so the big thing that I want to do is I want to build like a chat client or help build a chat client for Pebble so that you could see the history. Like if you get a new notification, it doesn't just overwrite the last notification. You see the conversation history. Simple request.
Love it.
Yeah. So that's going to see about that. And then AI was something that just didn't exist. And
certainly not the way it does now. Holy moly.
Yeah. Pebble has a microphone, has a screen. Why can't you talk to, ChatGPT through it?
Just don't call it the Pebble R1 or the Pebble Rabbit R1. You probably don't want to go there. I would advise against that name. But super exciting stuff. And Eric, we are so happy for you. I love hearing this story because it makes me realize that the story that I had written in my head of like I said, of you working closely with Google, to like make this happen, it was actually you realizing along with a lot of us, oh my goodness, really? That's happening? Okay, let's go. And suddenly your week got really interesting really fast. I guess I know what I'm doing this week.
Yeah, I had pre-warning, but you never know, you don't know when it's going to happen. And I was just extraordinarily happy.
Right on. Well, you've got a lot to be happy about. You've got a lot to be proud about too. Like it really is the truth to say that Pebble, really kind of carved out and created.
It was so much fun
a path
to see all the love. Like people were posting photos of them wearing Pebble today.
Mm-hmm.
They were posting their favorite Pebble photos. They were posting their favorite apps. The subreddit went wild. I took screenshots of like the funniest quotes and sent them to my wife. Like it's fun. It felt good. It felt positive and a little bit optimistic.
I think, and I think you've just touched on something that really I like about this news, aside from the actual news, which is so much in the world of technology is heavy and deep and weighty and political and all these things that the fun of technology to a certain degree in many ways has been kind of removed from the experience. And I find myself getting more and more nostalgic for a time in technology where it was fun and enjoyable and quirky and weird. And we didn't know or think that we knew everything there was about what technology is. And we were okay to be surprised and just to kind of go along with the joke or whatever the case may be. And that's the kind of vibe I get from the Pebble story in total, is like, you know what? There was no model when this smartwatch came out. And so you could do risky things that were very different and still continue to be very different from what we see in the market. And that's why I think it's awesome you guys are back.
I think we also recognize that, and I blogged about this, that this time around, one of my goals is to build a sustainable company to help make these products. The last one was unsustainable, obviously. Like we had to sell. There's no other path. And this time around, taking a bit slower, thinking with the benefit of hindsight now of, several decisions that we made during the early Pebble days, and, not planning to raise money, not planning to hire a big team, planning to kind of, grow within our means, if at all possible, and build something that's going to last.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Well, we can't wait to follow along, and we are just absolutely thrilled.
We'll chat more.
Yeah, absolutely. Sounds like there's probably no immediate time frame in view, but sometime down the line.
Just getting started.
Yeah. I know. Where can people go to find out, get updates on your project?
Check out repebble.com. Sign up if you'd like, and you can follow us on Twitter. There's a great Discord from the Rebel team, which is linked in the middle of the page if you scroll down, in the bottom middle there, and then the r/Pebble, of course.
Mm-hmm.
I love the cute little animation at the top of the page, the arm raising from the grave.
So this is designed by a Pebble watch face creator. For the real Pebblers in the room, they'll know which watch faces this person made, but this person made a bunch of really beautiful Pebble watch faces. And I asked him if he would design the site.
Wonderful. So good. Love it. Well, Eric, it's been a real pleasure getting the chance to talk to you again. I love that you are you're part of kind of the Android faithful community, and we can reach out to you from time to time and bring you on. Eric Migikovsky is, of course, the founder of Pebble and the Pebble, I was going to say 2.0, but this is probably a little bit more beyond. How about Pebble TNG, the next generation?
Ooh, that's a good one. I like that
one. Thank you, Eric. Congratulations. And let's keep in touch as the story progresses. We'll bring it back when there's big news. Let us know.
Have a great week.
All right. You too.
Yeah. Thanks
Best of luck. Amazing. I love it. I think Ron would have appreciated being here for that, but he'll have just as much fun watching the conversation and yelling at his podcast while he's on a plane. All right. Well, we have a ton of news, much of it
Oh
written by
boy.
Mishaal, because Mishaal's been very busy the last week or so. So we're going to dive into the news, including Android 16 and so much more. Samsung. I mean, there's just so much to talk about tonight. That's coming up here in a moment. All right, Mishaal, I'm looking at, I don't know, about 10, 12, 12 stories about Android 16, which tells me you've been incredibly busy. Um, I guess give us the highlights. What are the things that people really need to know about Android 16? Because apparently we know a lot.
I mean, there's a lot of stuff that I've talked about before, just
Yeah.
assuming that stuff, just accumulating onto the new stuff that Google announced last week. But just focusing on the new stuff Google announced last week and the stuff that I uncovered in the new beta, that's what I'm going to focus on right now. So,
Sure.
Google released the first beta of Android 16. This is the first version of Android 16 that you can install over the air on your Pixel phone by enrolling in the Android beta program. So, this update at a high level introduces two big changes. The first one is improved what Google calls improved app adaptivity, which kind of sounds weird, but
That is a
basically,
weird name.
it's a weird
Adaptivity.
name, adaptivity. But basically, Google is changing the way apps can behave on large screens. In the past, apps could say, "You're running on a large screen. We don't want our app to rotate, or we don't want our app to be resizable. We only want our app to run in this specific orientation or this specific aspect ratio."
I remember
Android
Instagram
16,
used to be
yes,
a big one of those. Yeah.
a lot of apps do that. Like Reddit,
Yeah.
for example, doesn't run in landscape mode. Instagram, for example, doesn't fill up the full screen. Although I think they did change that. But there's a lot of apps
Yeah.
that fit this
I think they did.
this trend.
Mm-hmm.
But Android 6 does away with all those restrictions, and now any app can be rotated to landscape mode and can be stretched to fill the screen. So that's a huge change and a huge win for tablets, for Chromebooks, and for large screen book style foldables. The next new feature is called Live Updates, and this is a new class of notifications that are intended for ongoing activities like a rideshare pickup, food delivery alert, or navigation. So if you're familiar with iOS and the live activities, this is basically Android's version of that. And the thing about live updates in Android is the reason Google is doing this. Like you've probably already noticed that apps like Uber, they're able to show notifications with progress bars in them. But what Google is doing is they're basically standardizing the way these notifications are made. So now all apps can create notifications that have progress bars in them to tell you when something is about to be delivered or something's about to happen. And another thing about the live updates feature is that they can appear prominently on the lock screen. So they'll always appear at the top of the lock screen carousel, even with the new compact notification layout, which is something I'll talk about soon. And if my information is correct, they'll also show up as chips in the status bar, and they'll also appear on the always on display instead of just icons. You'll also see the notification itself on the AOD. So these are the most important changes related to live updates and what makes them actually different than what we had before. But we don't actually have like screenshots or like actual like a video showing off what live updates really looks like. We have screenshots of the new progress bar notifications, but that itself is not new. The next thing is support for APV, or Advanced Professional Video Codec. This is just a codec that Samsung designed to improve the quality of like HD, 4K, 8K video recordings. And the goal is to create a codec that enables both high quality recordings that also don't take up too much space. And Android 16 is the first version that includes support for this codec. Predictive back animations are now enabled by default for apps. So instead of apps having to opt in to show predictive back animations when you navigate between apps or you go to the home screen, now it's enabled by default for any apps that target Android 16. And then 3-button navigation, if you use the old back, home, and recent apps scheme, you'll have predictive back gestures as well. And finally, Google said more Gemini extensions are coming soon, but they didn't explain exactly how. Although I think it's what they're doing is they're expanding this new app function API that lets apps kind of expose what functionality is available to Gemini, and then Gemini can act on that functionality. So that's at a high level what's officially new in Android 16 Beta 1. But as I mentioned, there's a lot of other stuff that I found.
That's one link of many of your articles. So is the rest of the stuff that you wrote, is that more like the hidden kind of stuff? Because I mean,
Well,
notably
we can
go
quickly
digging
skip.
for a lot of
You
stuff.
can skip the futures adaptive link, but let's
Mm.
go straight to the live updates link because that has a few screenshots I think I want to show people.
Sure.
So here's how Google's changing notifications in Android 16 with live updates. This image, if you're watching the video, just shows what the new progress-centric notifications look like. You can see like you have notifications with a progress bar on it, kind of indicating food delivery alerts. And if you scroll down, Jason, I published an article a couple of months ago. Keep scrolling down.
Oh, keep scrolling.
That showed. There we go, right there. That showed what chips on the status bar will look like. These are just mock-ups, like based on a hidden command line. But I'm pretty sure live updates, once this feature actually goes live, these updates will also show as chips in the status bar.
Okay.
The next big change is related to hearing aids. So hearing aid support is getting better in Android 16. You'll be able to have a slider that allows you to control the ambient volume levels of your surroundings. So if you want to, say, increase how loud your surroundings are, you'll be able to use a slider to increase the volume level. And the other change is related to which microphone you want to use while in a voice call. So in Android 16, you'll be able to switch between the built-in microphone on your hearing aids and your phone's microphone during voice calls. And both of these changes will apply to Bluetooth LE audio-enabled hearing aids, of which there aren't that many right now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The next big change is something that could improve multitasking for tablets. So if you have used the OnePlus Pad or the OnePlus Pad 2 before, they have this open canvas feature where basically you can fit 3 apps in split screen mode. And you can kind of like, you have 2 apps taking up a combined 80%, and you have, a combined 90% of the screen, and the final app taking about the last 10%. And this basically allows you to have 3 apps on screen, but only prominently showing 2 of them. And then when you want to switch to the third app, you just tap on that little window on the far left or the far right, and it'll quickly shift the viewport so you can see that third app.
That's a cool feature. I like that.
It's a cool feature. If you have a OnePlus Pad, Pad 2, or the OnePlus Open, it's available on that. And from what I can see, it looks like Google is working on a similar feature, although it's kind of broken right now. It doesn't really work, so I don't know if it'll actually go live on Android 16. Another multitasking-related change is coming for phones, and it's the ability to split 2 apps into split screen, but in a 90-10 ratio. So right now, when you split 2 apps in split screen on your phone, you can have it by default in a 50-50 ratio where both apps take up approximately half the screen. You can resize it so one app takes up 30% of the screen and the other app takes up 70% of the screen. But what Google is working on is having one app take up 90% of the screen and the other app take up 10% of the screen. So this basically just gives you more flexibility in how you have apps sized on the screen. If you want one app very prominently displayed, but you still don't want to close out that other app, you want to occasionally switch to it, you can have it now in this 90-10 ratio.
You know what this functionality, just real quick, because it reminded me of it, what it used to do, it used to be that if I had a YouTube window in one of them and something else in the other, I used to be able to resize it so that it only had the window size as the YouTube thing. Does that make sense? So that like the YouTube portion was just the size of the window in that window, and then the rest of it was the second app. And I can't do that anymore. It's it's got to be half the screen, at least on my Pixel. It won't let me do that anymore. And I was kind of bummed to discover that recently. So maybe this will address that. I don't know.
The next change is just a quick tweak to the volume UI in Android 16. Google is looking to change the volume panel and the volume slider UI. Basically, instead of the giant pills in the volume slider, you're going to have these like indicators, these sliders that are much smaller, and they have this horizontal, this vertical little slant at the end of it. These are called continuous sliders with handles in the material documentation. And Google's also looking to bring this design to the volume slider that appears when you press the volume key. So I kind of asked users, like, how they feel about this new volume panel design. And a lot of users aren't really fans of it. I think most people kind of prefer the design we have right now in Android 15. But we'll have to see if Google continues making tweaks to this design.
It looks very
And
old school to me. Like, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
the rounded pill thing feels more modern than this. This just reminds me of like old school
Older
stereos
school
with like an
Android.
EQ curve on it, which is appealing in its own right, I suppose. But yeah, I do prefer the rounded version.
I guess one benefit of the newer proposed design is that it's easier to see exactly what the volume level is,
Yeah.
because like
Yeah, I
everything
suppose
is
so.
smaller, everything's very discreet. It's not as
Mhm.
playful, but you can kind of clearly tell where the volume's at.
Mhm. Mhm.
All right, the next feature that I talked about is a new feature called Secure Lock. So this feature will allow you to remotely lock your phone and put it into an enhanced security state. So when you enable Secure Lock, in order to unlock your phone, you not only need your PIN code, but you also need your biometrics. Because right now, let's say a thief hypothetically peeks over your shoulder, then snatches your phone, or worse, they put you at gunpoint and ask you for your PIN, and then they
Oh
steal
boy.
your phone, right? If they have your PIN, they can unlock your phone no matter what, right? Even if
Mhm.
you remotely lock it with Find My Device, they can still unlock it using your PIN. Your only choice at that point is to factory reset it. But what this feature will allow you to do is to force Android to only unlock itself if your PIN and your biometrics are recognized. And at the same time, when your phone is in secure lock state, your quick settings panel, your widgets, and notifications will be blocked. So they can't access any of that data from your lock screen. Say you have a tablet that has lock screen widgets enabled, or you have notifications showing up on your lock screen, or you have some quick settings with sensitive information or something that you don't want them to toggle. All those will be inaccessible when secure lock is enabled.
Okay.
Next up, there's advanced protection mode, which is another security feature Google's working on. This feature, you can already enroll into the advanced protection program on the web that kind of basically locks down your Google account so that you have to use a passkey to make changes. Google's kind of bringing and integrating this feature into Android. So if you enable it, it'll block sideloading, which is something that advanced protection already does. But it'll also block 2G access and also enable a feature called memory tagging extension, which, if it's enabled for certain apps, can improve the memory safety of those apps. But the more important thing is that Google's bringing an API that apps can tap into. So, say, for example, you have a banking app that detects that you've enabled advanced protection mode. Then that app can say, this user clearly cares about their security. Let's enable some extra security features that maybe make it more difficult to use the app, but this clearly cares enough about their security that they went ahead and enabled advanced protection.
Okay.
And finally,
Dun,
Google's
dun,
working on a new
dun.
shortcut to launch Google Wallet. Right now, you can launch Google Wallet by tapping on the lock screen shortcut or the quick settings tile, but Google's working on letting you double tap the power button to launch Google Wallet. Right now, on a Pixel phone, double tapping the power button only launches the Pixel camera app, but you'll have an option to launch Google Wallet instead, so you can quickly switch between your cards.
That
That's it
was
for now.
that was a lot.
That's a lot. I'm not even like halfway done with my backlog of stuff to talk about.
You always have so much to write. I'm always amazed at your backlog. By the way, could you hear my dogs barking?
Yes.
I think that the house is now empty except for me, which, for audio listeners, I'm up in my bedroom, which is where the second kind of podcast studio is, because I can close the door. And apparently right on the other side of the door are two dogs that want nothing more than to come in here. We'll see if they calm down. And if not, I might have to step away for a second. But for right now, God, they're just going nuts. I might put you on a single shot. Tell us about this next piece of news while I go open the door so they can leave me alone.
So this actually comes from Google again. They had some stuff to announce to coincide with the launch of the Galaxy S25. Spoiler alerts. We'll talk about that next. They also announced a couple of features that are coming to the Galaxy S25 first, including some new accessibility features. So these include the hearing aid improvements I talked about before. They announced that the Galaxy S25 will be one of the first devices to include support for Bluetooth LE audio hearing aids. These are hearing aids connect to your phone over Bluetooth LE audio, and so far there are only 2 models that support that. You'll get this new dialogue, which I would show you video viewers if I was in control of the feed right now, but Jason is out dealing with his dog. This new dialogue will allow you to quickly switch between your preset modes for that you've set for your hearing aid, and I think it'll also have the slider that I talked about before to allow you to control the ambient mode. All right, Jason's back, so we can scroll down and see the dialogue that I was just talking about.
All right, let's see the dialogue. Yes, I've totally been listening. Totally been listening to everything you said. There we go.
The other changes that Google announced, the other accessibility features, are that on Android 15, if you have a Braille device, a Braille display that connects via the HID standard over Bluetooth, that will be supported on devices running Android 15, starting with the S25 series. And also, Google announced that TalkBack, the screen reader service on Samsung devices, will use Google's Gemini models for AI-powered image descriptions. And that'll actually be running on device using Google's multimodal Gemini Nano model on the S25. Google also announced some circle to search improvements. So you're getting new one-tap actions for things like phone numbers, email addresses, and URLs. So instead of, you circle to search and then you have to manually tap on the phone number, you'll get this chip above the phone number that just says call. Or you get a chip above an email address that says email. And you just tap that and you'll instantly open the dialer app or the email app or whatever.
There it is. Okay, so this is for the video viewers. This is kind of an example of that. It'll recognize the actionable kind of contact method and give you the ability to jump right into it. That's awesome. Love it.
And the other change is AI overviews for visual searches. So now if you select an image of a place, landmark, some object, or whatever, you'll now get AI overviews of that search result. So, instead of actually sending that image manually to the Google app, it'll just automatically generate an overview of the image and hopefully give you the correct information about it.
Yeah. Yeah, they've been getting better, I would say. But you just never know. Cool. That's good.
And lastly,
I love changes coming to circle to search. It's a really wonderful feature.
Yep. And lastly, Samsung and Google jointly announced an updated kid-friendly smartwatch experience for the Galaxy Watch. So with the new Galaxy Watch for kids and Family Link integrated experience, kids can place calls or text with family members. They can talk to approved contacts. They can use teacher-approved apps and watch faces, and they can do all of this without needing a connected smartphone. So all they need is a watch, a Samsung Watch, Galaxy Watch 7 LTE, that supports these new kid features. Kid-friendly watches there are more and more of these coming out. Google announced their Fitbit Ace, I believe it was. That's a kid-friendly watch.
That's right, yeah.
And now Samsung is upgrading their existing Galaxy Watch 7 with kid-friendly features.
So this is the sort of thing that, when you're setting up the watch, you can determine, do I want the normal or do I want the kid version, which is something that you can do with Pixel devices
right now.
Yeah, on Android phones, which is really nice when you're setting it up. It's is this for you or is this for your kid? And if so, then it starts you down a different path. That's nice. That way you don't have to. That way you're not isolated to only getting the watches that are the kid watches. If you happen to have one of these watches lying around and it supports this, then just set it up as a kid's watch, and it'll be just as good for them.
Yeah,
like that. That's great. Deep breath, Mishaal. That was a lot. And
it's
more.
not over yet.
And there's more. But you're going to take a break because we need to shout out to our patrons who help us do this show each and every week. For without you, our wonderful patrons, we couldn't do what we do. So thank you. Patreon.com/Android Faithful is where you can go to be a patron of the work that we do. You can be like Peter O'Malley and Mark Fleming, just 2 of our amazing patrons who support us every single week and month on the show. So thank you for that. We do also give our patrons the opportunity to vote for a story that we talk about. We give you 3 options, and then you, the Patreon community, can vote for your favorite, and then we will talk about the one that wins. Of course, when we do that, we also, have a call out. We've got so many different ways for y'all to get involved, to send us artwork that is Android inspired and usually generated by artificial intelligence. Cousin of Ja is the one who submitted this week's image that accompanies the post. It is the Android bug droid at a Samsung event that doesn't look like the Samsung event I was at. The chairs are very wooden. But, the bug droid's wearing a Gemini Loves Bixby t-shirt. So there's that. Honestly, it got all the words right. I'm pretty impressed by that. Not a bad job. Thank you for sending that in, Cousin of Ja. We appreciate you. So if you want to see that, you can go to patreon.com/AndroidFaithful to see the image, or check out the video version of this podcast, of course. But the 3 news stories that y'all voted on, it looks like it was a tie for second and third. So I guess second place tie. And then we had a resounding winner. So 2 different stories hit 27% of the votes. Google TV begins news briefs experiment in the United States. That got 27% of the votes. Google is accelerating the Android XR platform with a new agreement with HTC. That also got 27% of the vote. I feel like any of those could have been in tonight's rundown if we had the room for it. And the winner, the one that you all voted for to make sure that we talk about it, is this major brand has a tool to run PC games, Steam, as well as Steam, on your Android tablet. Let me go ahead and pull up the article and tell you a little bit about this. This is a Xiaomi effort, a new tool called WinPlay that lets users run PC games locally on Android tablets. So not streaming gameplay over the internet. This is all local gameplay. And it uses a 3-layer virtualization technology that runs Windows games in that virtualized environment. It can be actually found via the AI treasure box menu on a very particular Xiaomi phone, tablet right now, Xiaomi Pad 6S Pro. And it allows for games installed from Steam and GOG game stores, as well as Windows games streamed locally. It supports Xbox gamepads. It supports mouse and keyboard. And it is, unfortunately, sadly, currently restricted to China. It's part of an internal beta program for that device that I mentioned, the Xiaomi Pad 6S Pro. So this is still very neat. Local game streaming. I'm not a big time gamer anymore, but there was a time, probably about the Stadia time, when this would have been like, oh, cool, I don't have to do it to the cloud. I can just do it through home. So I don't know. Is this up your alley?
This isn't game streaming. This is locally running PC games through virtualization.
Oh,
you are running these. You are running Windows, or
I
it's
misunderstood.
not clear if this is emulating Windows through like WinLater, or if this is actually running like Wine, which is not an emulator, but like translating Windows.
Right.
Whatever. We don't know the exact mechanism, but
okay.
Projects like these have been around and they've been growing in popularity, and they've been getting better and better because phones are really freaking powerful these days.
They are. Yes.
Right.
Indeed.
Like, there's another app actually that just came out called Game Hub. Let's see. From the folks behind the GameSir controller. And I actually have it running right here. I can just show you very quickly. Like, this is, I believe, using Wine to translate. Like, you're running there's a Linux desktop environment, and then it's using Wine with some backend to translate the Windows, the Windows games, so they run on your Android phone. I believe I got it. It's very finicky. All these kind of tools are very finicky.
Yeah.
But it's crazy that it even works.
Yeah, totally. And like you said, the processing power on these phones nowadays.
The other day, I got the Resident Evil 2 remake demo running on this. This is the Galaxy S25 Ultra. Spoiler alert. Let me actually go back to Game Hub and come on. It'd be so cool to show it off. Do it. Here we go.
Yeah, when it said locally, my understanding of that was that it was
locally.
streaming locally from a machine,
No.
like in your home network. But no,
Nope.
this is
This is
literally
on the phone.
on your device, on your phone. So then,
Okay,
how
here it is.
large
Let's
are
see if it
these
boots it up.
install
This is an
files?
8 gigabyte. This is an 8 gigabyte. This is the demo of
Yeah.
the game because obviously they can't bundle the actual game. That would be
Yeah.
full on piracy.
Right,
But here we go. Let's see if it boots up again.
Come on, you can do
come
it.
on. Do it for us.
Come on. Oh, I saw a little flash.
There we go.
There
Capcom
we go.
Logo.
Capcom.
Right? Like I have no idea how stable it's gonna be. It's probably gonna crash like I don't know, an hour in or even earlier. But
it'll be a sweet hour.
The Resident Evil 2 remake, the demo for it, running locally on my Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra, which is crazy, right? Like the fact that this phone can do that. Now it takes a lot of power. If you look at the stats here, 79% GPU, 73% CPU, RAM 78%.
It's in the red.
Right? 120 FPS though. That's pretty crazy. This is just the title screen though. This is the setting screen.
Yeah.
Like it's crazy, right?
That's
Phones
cool.
are that powerful these days.
Yeah.
And
that's really neat.
Let me switch back.
Yeah, that is really cool. I'm happy you showed that. Yeah, and then there's an associated video here as well. I wonder if it kind of shows some gameplay. You got your controller. Yes, indeed, running locally on the tablet. So there you go. All right. Not bad at all. So this is, once again, this is called WinPlay by Xiaomi. Yeah, probably see more of this coming down the line.
My only worry is that they're only going to release this. Xiaomi's only going to release this in China. It's not going to come outside of China. That's the only thing that I'm worried about.
Here in the U.S., we're pretty used to that at this point. Anyways, patrons, thank you so much for forcing us to talk about that really cool story. Patreon.com/AndroidFaithful. And we appreciate all of you. And thank you for your support. And, become a patron. Then you can participate in next week's awesome story. All right, we've got now some hardware to talk about, and I don't know if y'all knew, but last week was a big week for hardware. Mishaal just kind of teased a little piece of what we saw, what we heard. It was my first time attending Galaxy Unpacked. I've covered it from afar, God, more than a decade for Twit over the years, and I have been invited a number of times, but never allowed to go. Essentially, I had to cover it from a distance. And this time I got to go, and you were there. And once again, we did not see each other. How did that happen? I don't even know how we were in the same building and we never crossed paths. It's a big building.
We did see each other, just not at Unpacked itself.
Right, not at Unpacked.
We definitely saw each other.
Yeah, just not at Unpacked. Right, the content capture, I suppose, absolutely then.
And at the hotel or the afterwards.
That's right.
Had that one cafe across the street from the hotel. Yeah.
But it's a cool experience. It was cool. I got to say, it was cool being there before we get to the actual reason that we were there. It was cool being in the room where Samsung has, watching it on the live stream. It's always this big, the massive cluster of gigantic screens, and they're walking out on top of the screens and everything. And I'd never been to one of those events in person, so it was kind of nice for a change to go there. At one point, I was behind the stage at the end of the kind of experience area when they started kicking people out, and I ran up to the front, which was actually behind those big screens, and it was really cool to look at like the technology that makes up those screens. It was just massive and complicated looking.
I'm going to be honest, Jason.
Yeah.
I don't think I watched like the keynote at all until the very end. Because the reason is Samsung sets the embargo to lift the moment the keynote starts.
Yes.
So a lot of people, including myself, were just posting.
Yeah.
And like trying to post as much as we could with the venue Wi-Fi, which was kind of spotty. So like from the very beginning, I was just post, gotta post.
And you had them all prepped,
I was not paying
right?
attention at all to like the actual keynote.
Yeah, I mean, you knew most of the news, at that point anyways.
But there's always some stuff they announced that they didn't share in the briefing, like the 6 months of Gemini Advance for all three phones. I don't think that was mentioned in our briefing.
Right.
Or the teaser for the Edge. They didn't.
The teaser for the Edge.
That was completely left out.
That's right.
The briefing.
We'll get to that.
Yeah.
But the things that we did know about and everybody knew about, it was the Galaxy S25, the S25 Plus, the S25 Ultra, all shipping with Snapdragon 8 Elite for Galaxy. So a version of the Snapdragon 8 Elite that is really just custom for this, or built with this in mind specifically. Very rounded corners design, which I know at least for the Ultra, it has really upset some people. They're like, I like my hard edges on the Ultra, and now it's got this rounded, curved kind of quality to it.
Jason, I would like to meet those people because I don't know anyone who actually likes the hard edges.
The flat hard edges,
sharp edges.
I
guess it is easier to prop it up on a table, but like, why?
Yeah. I don't mind the curvy. It's not like, and it's also like not a dramatic curve either. It's a pretty.
It is very mild, enough to make it
mild.
not as uncomfortable.
Yes,
but
totally agree.
I would prefer it more curvy.
Yeah. Mishaal likes the curves on the smartphones. Flat sides, as so many of the premium smartphones are doing these days. Dynamic AMOLED 2x display, 2600 nits of peak brightness, 120 hertz adaptive refresh, of course. You've got Pro Scaler, which is AI upscaling from 720p to 4K on the display, which I would love to kind of put to the test a little bit. Larger vapor chamber inside, at least on the S25 Ultra. You've got for the first time, Snapdragon satellite support. The S Pen in the Ultra this was pretty controversial, I think, loses Bluetooth support. So if those air actions, that's gone. If you use your S Pen for a camera shutter, that's gone. Although I have to imagine if they're doing that, it's at least partially because they weren't being used very much. But of course, you're always going to hear from the people who did use them say, why the heck would you do that to me? Do you? Oh, what are you demonstrating? What are you showing off?
I'm demonstrating what doesn't work.
What doesn't work? You're clicking the button.
It's
doing nothing.
Nothing's happening.
What? But let's think about that for a second. Why? Because I feel like it's been a feature of the S Pen for so long. Like,
yeah, it has been.
Is it a cost savings, or is it? You know what I mean?
The official reasoning that I was given is that nobody uses it.
Yeah.
But I mean, technically, if nobody uses it and they're getting rid of it, that does save costs. But I don't know.
Like how much of a material cost.
Yeah.
But I guess if you're making millions, shipping and selling millions upon millions of these devices, even a small amount adds up. But yeah, really at the end of the day, if no one's using it, or if a very small fraction of the overall user base is using it, you can't fault them for that, right? Like at a certain point, you've got to make changes based on how these phones are being used. And so if it's not being used, I never used it.
If you've seen articles that say that there's a separate S Pen with Bluetooth being sold separately, those are not true. That was an error. Like an article was published on one Samsung website by someone not affiliated with Samsung, and there was a lot of confusion. But no, there is no separate S Pen with Bluetooth available for the S25 Ultra. There's just no Bluetooth S Pen support at all on the device.
And if you have an S Pen that has Bluetooth enabled in it, from another device, it won't even work on the new one. So it's like, nope, sorry.
Yeah.
Kind of crazy. Like, I'm kind of surprised that doesn't just work. It's Bluetooth.
Yeah.
Like, why the heck not? But anyways, battery, same as last year across these devices. Still no Qi 2. Most cameras pretty much the same, except for the new ultra wide.
Jason.
Sorry?
Still no Qi 2 built into the phone.
Into the phone.
There's no magnets in the phone.
Right.
But these are one of the first phones that are Qi 2 ready, which means that you can get cases that are Qi 2 compatible.
Yeah.
That's not confusing at all, isn't it?
Yeah.
So yeah, Samsung is selling cases, and third parties will also be making cases that are Qi 2 compatible. What that means is that if you attach that case to your Samsung phone and you attach your device to a Qi 2 charger, you'll get the full 15-watt charging support on a Qi 2 certified charger, magnetic.
Okay.
But other than that,
better than nothing.
It's kind of misleading to say the S25 is Qi 2 compatible because it's not. Because it doesn't have magnets. right? It's with an asterisk, the heavy asterisk, because you got to
Mhm.
get third-party case or official Samsung case.
Yeah, one of these, in fact. Um, the ultra wide 50 megapixel is new in the Ultra, in the S25
Updated
Ultra. So
50 megapixel now instead of 12 megapixel, I believe.
yeah,
Which
which is
Samsung
yeah,
says 4 times the detail for macro shots.
okay. All right. Yeah. That's a good update. I don't use the Ultra nearly as much as I use something like a telephoto. So I'm kind of like, okay, well that's good to have, but update the telephoto. That's what I want. A couple of random other things that stood out: log video and a LUT, which really for videographers they'll care about that. I've always liked the video capabilities of the S20 of the S Ultra series. In fact, I use it a lot in my videos on my channel. So, that's interesting to me. Nightography video mode. There's now brief and now bar, two new kind of software features. There's like this morning brief that you can kick into, or evening brief, or I think there's even an afternoon brief that just kind of summarizes different data points from the phone. Speaking of that, personalized data engine, which is essentially a kind of an organized system of understanding how you use your phone, when you use it, what for, and all this kind of stuff, so that it can surface different, and share different pieces of information on the device, not cloud driven, to better customize the experience for you with, artificial intelligence and all that fun stuff. Audio eraser, which is, kind of pulls apart. I'm scrambling to find like images that represent some of these things. I don't even know if they're here, which pulls apart an audio signal and a video that you have into little sections that you can mix individually. Like if there's audience noise in your video and you want to filter that out so you hear you talking more, you can actually use it like a mixer and essentially do that. I tested that out at the event and it worked pretty good for me there, in a very quick demo that I did. AI select, essentially smart select, get some upgrades. Gemini on the side button. Didn't really hear anything about Bixby at all at the event. I think it's just really all Gemini at this point. And the prices are the same, so the prices did not change. And yeah, what do you think? Because you've got it in your hands. You actually left the event with one. I wish that I had, but I've got one coming soon. What do you think?
Yeah, so I have the S25 Ultra in the hand. As I did mention, the edges are slightly rounded, so they
Mhm.
don't like dig into your palm nearly as much as the S24 Ultra and previous models did, which is nice. And it's also slightly thinner. The bezels are slightly thinner. I think the camera bump's also slightly thinner. The phone is
Mhm.
slightly less heavy. It does make for a more comfortable experience, but again, it's not like the most thinnest phone out there. It's not the lightest phone out there. It's still made out of freaking titanium, I believe, for the at least the frame.
Yeah.
It still has a really nice display, as Jason mentioned, 2600 nits maximum. It has Gorilla Armor Gen 2. That was one of the highlight features of the original S24 Ultra, because basically it has this anti-reflective coating that makes it really visible out in like the outdoors when you have sunlight on it. Again, like in terms of hardware changes, there's really not a lot that's different from the previous model. Like you have the Snapdragon 8 Elite for Galaxy, you have the new 50 megapixel ultra wide camera. I don't know which one it is. You still have, the 3x telephoto and the 5x telephoto. And I do think the telephoto camera is still really fun to use. Like it's really fun to be able to zoom in on random objects really far and just like take like a
Love it.
video, like I like birds, so I just take a lot of
I love the
photos of birds
telephoto.
and ducks
Yes.
and stuff like that. I love doing that, right?
Yeah, me too. Me too.
And they have these AI features. I'm not gonna tap on my evening brief because I'm pretty sure it'll probably show my calendar.
Yeah.
But they have like a lot of these AI now. At Gemini, you can long press the sidebar to open the Gemini. Gemini can now do the. I believe actually we're talking about Gemini features later, but it can now take actions across apps. A lot of Gemini integration, but I think it is kind of hard to. Samsung's main selling point for these phones is the AI features integrated throughout. There are some
Mhm.
genuinely useful stuff, like the settings search, for example, is like, uh, let's see, how do I make my text bigger? Like, and I search just with natural language, and it pulls up several options for me to change my um display size, by text size, etc. That's a generally useful feature because there's so many things in one UI. It's really hard to dig through and actually find what you want to change. This just makes it easy. You just ask with natural language. There's also a similar feature in the Gallery app. I don't have an example to show you right now. Also, I don't want it to pull up some personal photos. But at the event, I did an example with the Gallery app. Like I searched, and basically, like I asked it, there was this photo of a bird flying over this woman, and I asked it, find me that one photo of a bird flying over my friend, and it pulled up that exact photo. So it's like basically using AI. It's like analyzing what objects and things are in photos, and then extracting that, creating like a searchable database, kind of like what Pixel Screenshots does on Pixel phones, but I probably to a less powerful extent on Samsung Gallery app. But I still think it's a pretty cool feature. There's a lot of mini AI features like that throughout the interface. You have the evening brief. You have this. This is called the Now brief on the home screen, and then on the lock screen it's called the Now bar. It's not showing right now because it only shows textually.
I could get the bar to have different things showing there if I had if I had like a stopwatch running, and then I also had a navigation.
Let's do a timer.
And then I
go back to the lock screen, and now they're showing here. And the cool thing is you can swipe between them, right? I think it's a really cool implementation.
I love it. Yeah, it's super cool.
Live activities, quote unquote.
Totally.
And if I didn't already dismiss my evening brief, that would show here as a card.
Ah, I see. And then you can tap right into it and show.
Is it worth getting the S25 Ultra? That's up to you. Yeah. Because it's still Samsung offers some incredibly good trade-in deals and pre-order offers in the US and some other regions. You're getting 7 years of OS and security update support. It's a good deal for some people, depending on what you have to bring to Samsung and whether or not you actually plan to use the phone for 7 years. Like, I really want Samsung to do better on the hardware and make more meaningful changes, right? Like when I posted about the S25 series, a lot of people were saying, oh, the OnePlus 13 is better. Like OnePlus made a lot of improvements when it comes to hardware in this from 12 to 13. I can barely list the changes on like one hand when it comes to the S24 Ultra to S25 Ultra hardware-wise, right? Meaningful improvements.
Very minimal. Yep.
So, Samsung still, I think they have the best software. They have the best integration. Galaxy AI is the most comprehensive suite of stuff you can do. They have so many productivity features, a lot of fun stuff like generative edit. Sketch to image is super fun, sketching whatever you want and having it create personalized avatars. And the cool thing is a lot of those actually run on device, right? A lot of AI features on other phones, they run purely on the cloud. Samsung has a lot of features, like half of them run on device. So they're doing a very good job at AI. It's at creating useful and fun AI features, but I think they've gotten kind of a little complacent when it comes to the hardware, and I do think they need to improve that. If they made as many improvements in the hardware as they did, as a OnePlus did, and they brought these software features, this would be easy, phone of the year, right? Yeah. But because we're getting so few hardware improvements and mostly software AI related features, which don't get me wrong, they're generally pretty good. And they have so many features, I think it would be hard for people to get pulled away from the Samsung ecosystem once you're embedded in it. But hardware-wise, if you're not already fully embedded in the Samsung ecosystem, you're not getting a good deal. It's kind of hard to choose this purely based on the hardware. You gotta want to get into the ecosystem. You gotta love AI features.
Or be just really kind of every year devoted to whatever the latest Ultra is. And there are definitely people out there that are that. Yeah, you can get some really great trade-in deals. AT&T essentially you can get it for nothing with certain trade-ins. So and in which case I would say, okay, well then if that's the case, then absolutely get it. I did challenge myself this time around to do a video that was not rah, but to kind of look into the different reasons why you might want to wait until the S26 Ultra. And, the video is it's my second top most watched video on my channel. So apparently people like the contrarian view. So go check that out on my YouTube channel. 4 reasons to wait for the Galaxy S26 Ultra. Do I feel that strongly about that thesis? I mean, I think it really depends on who you are, you know. And in general, I usually don't suggest that you always wait for the next thing, because then you'll be waiting forever. You'll always find a reason to wait. But this is the first S Ultra that I've seen in a while where I've been like, yeah, the value proposition's a little bit less than it has been in years past. And but which is not to say it's not a great phone. It's a really nice phone. It's beautiful.
Very good.
It's useful.
Very good display.
Totally.
Pretty decent camera hardware. 200 megapixel main camera. The 12 megapixel. It's kind of hard to justify year over year only seeing very incremental improvements in hardware.
Yeah, totally.
When other companies are like doing like leaps and bounds.
They're going nuts.
Models,
so yeah,
right.
Absolutely. So there you go. And I'm sure, you know, kind of broader reviews coming from both of us in the weeks ahead. You probably sooner than I, because I don't have mine yet, but at some point I will.
You know what I don't have, Jason?
What?
The S25 Edge.
Oh yeah, that's true. None of us do.
Nobody has that phone.
Don't worry about it. None of us do. But we did get to see it in person, so there's that.
That was a surprise.
Yeah. Well, it was kind of a surprise. I mean, it was a surprise, but then at the same time, we had all these rumors that were pointing to a Slim, and so it was kind of like, oh, so that's the Slim then. Okay.
I don't think anyone expected the phone to be there at the event.
Yeah.
Right? There were a lot of reporters. Like when I went to the back, it was like behind the actual keynotes, the stage. They had this big demo area.
Yeah.
And when I went there, I saw some reporters like walking in. They were like, "Oh yeah, by the way," I was telling them, "By the way, the Edge is back there." And they're like, "Yeah, we know. I wish Samsung had told us that." Because like they had already left. They were leaving because, you know, they already got the keynote was over. They had already gotten hands-on the other day. So like, what's the point of going to the demo area? Yeah. Oh yeah, because the Edge is there, and that's the only place they showed it off.
Yep. Yeah. So what did you think? The Edge being a very, very slim S25, essentially.
I mean, I got to see it for a few seconds, I guess. It looks slim from afar. Nobody could actually hold it.
It was behind a rope. Yeah, it was like blocked off. You could not get close to it.
And it was so crowded. It was really hard to actually properly see it. But we got some good photos.
Yeah.
Some okay photos. Like, it's a phone, all right.
It's a phone.
Has some curved corners. It has a hole
slim.
punch in the middle. 2 cameras on the back. It's certainly a phone.
Yeah.
It looks slim.
That's kind of how I felt about it too. I don't know.
Yeah. We'll find out more soon, hopefully.
Yeah. And then there was a wearable of a different variety that was showing off there. What did you think of seeing the Muhan?
On your wrist or on your hand, but a wearable you put on your head. Project Muhan.
What did you think of the Muhan in person?
It looked cool. I mean, a lot of people would easily mistake it for like an Apple Vision Pro, which, you know, it looks like a VR headset. What can I say? Yeah. I mean, what do you expect? It looks cool. It looks very sleek, futuristic. It hopefully has a nice display. Like, I don't know. I have not had the chance to actually try it. You have though, Jason, right?
Yeah.
Tell us about it again. You tell us your experiences.
Well, yeah. I mean, seeing this at the event confirmed for me that this is pretty much what I tried out when I went to Google in December, and, you know, basically spent close to 40 minutes wearing this headset. Now, you know, you pointed out in pre-show that Marques Brownlee, he got the full treatment. He got to wear the headset and get and capture the feed and, you know, put up a video. And of course I'm there going, dang it, that's what I wanted to do, but they wouldn't let anyone at that early stage do that. Anyways, you know, it was a really comfortable headset. You know, I don't know if the pictures do it justice as far as like how comfortable it was when I had it on my head, but it felt really nice. I would agree that from a build perspective and kind of like a quality of materials perspective, it reminded me of the Apple Vision Pro, but not quite on the same wavelength. I mean, considering the Apple Vision Pro is a $3,600 device or whatever, I highly doubt this is going to be that expensive. I would probably guess somewhere in the 15 range, 1500, but I guess we'll find out at some point. But it really well built, well designed, you know, high quality with the kind of metal framing and You've got your downward facing cameras, I think, right there that can track your hands when they're in your lap. Yeah, it's a nice headset, and it was cool to see it. It was cool to be reunited at the event with the Project Muhan. So,
And if you want to see what the interface is like, what it's actually like wearing it, you should go just watch Marques Brownlee's video.
Yeah.
Because he's the only one who's been able to record like an actual hands-on with it.
Oh, of course, Marques got to record the interface. Jeez.
You know what he didn't get to record or try? Or maybe he did. He just hasn't told it.
He hasn't told anybody yet?
But the Google and Samsung XR glasses that they're supposedly working on. Google confirmed that news. Okay.
That's cool.
Sorry, I was stealing your thunder there.
No. I would love to hear what you think about that. Is this... Oh my God, my dogs are driving me insane tonight. She's been in and out of this room like 10 times at this point. She's so, I don't know, out of her head. So I haven't actually read this article, the one from Bloomberg. Somehow I missed it. Is this the Project Astra? Is that like the initial kind of launch thing, or is this Samsung's version of what a Project Astra would be?
I mean, this is Samsung. They're working on AR smart glasses, and it'll definitely run Project Astra because these are going to be Android XR glasses.
Yeah,
you know, Google talked about when they announced Android XR that there'll be two versions of Android XR. The version that'll be built for, I mean, it's technically the same operating system, but like you have two form factors. You have the VR headsets, and then you have the AR glasses, right?
Yeah.
We've already seen Project Muhan. We haven't seen whatever glasses that Samsung is working on, but they confirmed that they are working on glasses. And and
I guess that's the question that I have is the Project Astra glasses that I tried on and used at Google last month.
Were they from Samsung?
Are they from Samsung? Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm kind of wondering. Or does Samsung have their own version of those glasses as well as what Google has with the Raxium displays in them? And, how are they different? We don't know. But I'll be curious to find out at some point, because I mean that really has left an impression on me. And you were at CES, as was I. These smart glasses were everywhere, and I guess they have been for many years. It's like every year they're trying to make the smart glasses thing work. But this was really the year where it was like, oh, wait a minute, we can get these things small enough and not dorky looking, and put something meaningful on the lenses. And yeah, we're just about to enter a really interesting time when it comes to this type of wearable. What I saw out of the Astra glasses has me really excited about this wave. And what I've seen through other people of what was shown off at CES, and I had, some experiences with some of those glasses, they were neat, but they didn't touch the Astra experience. And that's what has me really excited. It's like, okay, when Google comes out with this thing, it's going to really dazzle people. I guarantee it. Once you try it, you'll be like, oh, okay, this is different. This is way better. So there you go.
I wish I could share in your enthusiasm, Jason, but unfortunately,
you will. Someday you will.
I wouldn't have had a chance to try them yet. If you're listening, Google, I would promise to
make it happen.
Make it happen.
Come on, Mishaal will write 20 articles about it. You'll get so much articles written from Mishaal about it. He'll find every single little feature and write an article about it. Oh, but I don't think that Mishaal has written an article about Oppo's Find N5 yet, right?
Nope.
No. Okay.
I could, but
there's still time. Oppo has been teasing the Find N5 for days, and now we have official pictures of the foldable and a few key features shared by Oppo. One of those being its water resistance capabilities. This smartphone is apparently IPX6, IPX8, and IPX9 rated, which essentially means that you could take this sucker under the water and use it, and no big deal. As they showed off in a little social video, there's a woman swimming around with fishes and taking the phone and recording video, and that's pretty neat. And then the second video that they shared, that's a pretty good video recorded, I'm assuming, with the Oppo Find M5. And then the second video that they showed off is a demonstration of wireless charging, which I guess the previous version did not have wireless charging. This one does 50-watt wireless charging. In the case of this video, it's showing it off in vehicles, like with the wireless charging pads inside of vehicles. So yeah, that's the Find N5 foldable with a few key features coming someday. I don't know when the launch is. I don't know if that anyone knows.
And hopefully coming as the OnePlus Open 2 in the US.
That's right. Yeah. So yes, exactly. This is like the version for, let's say overseas, China, likely, and then coming here, as has happened in the past, OnePlus, takes that hardware and makes it its own. And so this could be a teaser of what we'll see with the Open Part 2.
This could be my phone of the year. Just if it shapes up like what they're already, if everything is what they're showing off, comes out exactly what they've shown. It's like how thin it is, wireless charging, water resistance, latest Snapdragon processor, same or better cameras than the original Open, battery life, like even bigger battery with their silicon carbide tech, fast charging. Like, I don't know, like it's gonna be really hard to top this phone.
Yeah, that's exciting. That's really exciting. It seems to have, a lot of the squares from people's bingo cards marked, including thinner than a pencil when unfolded, like much thinner by the look of this picture that I'm showing on the video version. So there you go. That is exciting stuff. All right, and we are not done yet. We have one more block of apps news, but that's coming at you after this quick break. All right, we danced around Gemini features and stuff, so let's talk about that a little more because this is the right time to do it, I suppose.
Yeah, so Google announced at Unpacked that Gemini, there are a couple of changes coming to Gemini. First of all, it can take actions across different applications. So now if you ask Gemini to do things that involve 2 or more extensions, it can actually do them all in one command instead of one at a time. So for example, say you're in a city and a friend tells you about this really amazing ramen and sushi place that you should go check out. You can say the naughty word to call up Gemini.
Or hit the button on the side of your phone.
Or hit the button on the side of your Galaxy S25 Ultra or other phone to call up Gemini. And then you can say, find me the locations of this awesome sushi and ramen place in this city and add it to a Google Keep list. It'll do both, looking up the locations of those restaurants through the Google Maps extension, and then using the Google Keep extension to add those locations to a new note. So you can also do this, for example, you could send those locations to a text message. It'll look up on Google Maps and then send them to a text message. All sorts of different kinds of things you can do now. This kind of makes it a lot more useful as an actual digital assistant. Instead of just doing, adding one thing at a time to a list or looking up and then copying that info, manually sending a text message, or getting the information and then doing another Gemini invocation and then sending that information separately. Just do it all in one command, which is really useful.
Indeed.
The next thing they announced is that Gemini Live will now allow you to chat conversationally about files and videos, and YouTube videos specifically. So if you have a file, like an image, you can upload that to Gemini Live and then just ask it questions about it. For example, if you have an image of a painting, you can just upload it to Gemini Live and then just ask questions about it. Or same thing with a YouTube video. Just like attach a YouTube video and then just start asking questions about it. And you get that same conversational experience with Gemini Live where you can interrupt at any time. You can keep asking follow-up questions. Like you don't have to constantly prompt it and then prompt it again and then prompt it again. It just keeps the conversation flowing. And then finally, Google announced that Project Astra capabilities are coming to the Gemini mobile app. And by capabilities, they mean the ability to record your phone screen or stream from your phone camera and have that, go to Project Astra, the video feed. So basically, you can point your camera around or do stuff on your phone, and then you can ask questions about whatever you're seeing on your phone screen or through your camera. and it'll even remember stuff you've previously seen. So, for example, if you, I don't know, left a wrench on a table and you walk away, like, and then 5 minutes later you can ask, where did I leave that wrench? It'll say, oh, you put that wrench on this table, right? You can do things like that. Google announced this at I/O, and they have this, Jason showing the video demo from I/O, but we're finally getting news on approximately when these features will roll out, and that's coming in the coming months, starting with the Galaxy S25 series and select Pixel devices. We'll get first dibs on this feature in the Gemini app.
Be nice to have it in the Gemini app, but man, I just watched this demo and I'm like, yeah, but it's so much nicer in the glasses.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like having to hold it up and do all that versus.
I wouldn't know what you're talking about, Jason. I haven't tried.
I mean, it's just it just makes so much more sense once you get that experience in the glasses. Yeah, cool stuff though. I mean, this has to happen, and I'm happy to hear that it's going to. Yeah. Speaking of the glasses, here you are in the demo. They go on and. Cool. Thank you for that. And then finally on this, what feels like a supersized episode, it's funny. There's been a lot of news from a few different things. There really has only been a couple of like major things that's happened in the last week, but there's a lot of news tied to them. So this falls outside of that. The news that Epic is introducing nearly 20 third-party games to its mobile app store, as well as free games. Games like Bloons, TD 6, Dungeon of the Endless Apogee, and this will all be available on Android worldwide, and then on iOS in the EU, apparently. Epic plans to pay the Apple Core technology fee for developers for 1 year on iOS, which the company definitely sees as a barrier to competition. And in general, I guess, according to this article, The Verge, it says that Epic had a $100 million goal for the App Store installs in 2024, only reached 29 million installs. Epic is blaming install scare screens. But maybe people just don't want to install third-party app stores. I don't know.
Well,
that's a big difference.
If they don't have a lot of stuff to offer, then there's no reason to install them. And
well, that's true. That's a good point.
Adding a lot of these popular games could go a long way to actually boosting how many people install the Epic Game Store. We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah. And free nonetheless, People love free.
Yep.
So there you go. The ongoing saga of the Epic Game Store on Android and iOS. And with that, I believe we have reached the end of this episode of Android Faithful. Whew, that was a lot. And really want to give a huge thank you once again to Eric Migikovsky, who joined us to talk about Pebble at the start of the show. Eric, thank you so much for coming on. We'll have you back when you've got some big news to share about devices or whatever you've got in store for the future. Love to have Eric back. Mishaal, what do you want to leave people with? What should people know about all the work that you're doing and where they can find it, all that stuff?
Well, Jason, as I mentioned earlier, I still have a lot of Android news left to talk about, so Android 16 specifically. And if you want to find out when I'm posting that stuff or what exactly is left to be uncovered in Android 16, you can go to my Linktree page, which is linktr.ee/Mishaal Rahman, MISHAALRAHMAN. That has all the links you need. Like, you can add me to your contacts if you need to contact me. You can see my article archive. You can go to androidfaithful.com from there, become a Patreon, follow me on X, Threads, Telegram, Mastodon, Reddit, LinkedIn, all these different websites and all different places to find me, where I post news, updates, and a lot of different stuff from the world of Android and Google. So yeah, please do support me, follow me if you can, retweet, repost, rethreads, whatever they call it. Get the news out. If you love Android news and you want other people to hear about Android news, that's how you can support the work that I do.
You really want people to add you to their contacts.
I created a digital business card with a QR code that just leads directly to this, and it's very at the top. So
oh, I see.
Yeah.
So they follow the QR code. Now they know what the action is that they need to take. It's a big button.
Big button.
All right. Well, thank you, Mishaal. It was a lot of fun hanging out with you tonight. Thank you for that. Linktree/Mishaal Rahman. As for me, you can find my work, my latest video that seems to be doing really darn good. 4 reasons to wait for the Galaxy S26 Ultra. Just do a search for Jason Howell on YouTube and you'll find my channel, my ever-growing channel. I also actually wrote an article on this same topic for Digital Trends. So I am working hard to grow my skill set in writing for the page so that someday I too can be like Mishaal Rahman. It's hard. I don't know how you write as much as you do. It takes me forever to write a single article and you're just pushing out like 20 or 30 a week. I don't know, man. Got a lot of practice. I have a high amount of respect for the work you do, Mishaal. Thank you, everyone, for watching and listening each and every week. Of course, you can support us on Patreon, and we would appreciate if you do that. Patreon.com/AndroidFaithful to get the show ad-free, and you get other perks. We've got plans in the works for kind of increasing what we offer to make it even more appealing to convert you over and have you become a patron. So support us there. Patreon.com/AndroidFaithful. Also, AndroidFaithful.com, where you can support us financially if you like, or just read our articles, watch our videos, watch the podcast through there as well. And what else? I guess just contact us at contact@AndroidFaithful.com, and you can be part of the show in our feedback section, which we normally have, but we didn't have it today because we had so much news. Anyways, thank you so much. We'll see you next time with the whole cast, mostly back next week on Android Faithful. Bye. All right. And
Time.
Did the Showbot thing get?
It was reset. I don't know how many titles were submitted, but I guess we're about to find out.
Oh yeah, there's some good number of titles in here. Up at the top with 5 votes is Pebble Makes a Splash. Like it. A Packed Unpacked. The Great Repebbling. I Don't Mind the Curvy. Oppo Swims with the Fishes. I think I would add C at the end of that. Oppo Swims with the Fishes. C. Samsung gives us 25 reasons. Pebble Rebels. Ooh. Pebble Watch still alive in 2025. Google sets Pebble free. Pebble TNG. Samsung S Pen slipping away. Samsung S25's heavy asterisk. Gemini killed the Bixby star. Ooh. We're Google. Why are we doing this? There's probably some truth to that. Adapting to Android 16. Xiaomi brings Windows games to Android. Samsung's VR is here, but we want the AR glasses. Oppo Find N5 swims with the fishes. Nice second try on that idea. A special Mishaal Rahman. And I want to be like Mishaal. Don't we all? I think Pebble's got to be in the title, right? We gotta play up the Pebble thing.
I can't decide which one though. I like
Pebble
the Pebble TNG. Should we spell out the next generation? Would we get
Pebble
in trouble
the
for
next
that?
generation? Yeah, we could do that. Would it be Pebble : the next generation?
Yeah.
Pebble the next generation.
Okay.
Like it. All right. Thanks to everybody who voted, who placed the options in there. Looks like Clinton was very busy this evening. So was Cousin Ojah. And so many others. Couldn't do it without you guys. Thank you. All right. Well, that's it. Any last things before we close things out? I don't really have anything.
No.
No.
Not that I know of.
I think we're good. Everybody in the chat, thank you so much. I'm so sorry that I never communicate in the chat during the show. It's too much for me to pay attention to the chat and also push all the buttons and stuff. So, but I love seeing so much conversation happening there. So thank you everybody for being here. We're going to close this out so that I can eat a little dinner and then I can do my post-production work and get to prepping for tomorrow. I've got 2 podcasts tomorrow, doing Clockwork with Micah and Dan Morin, and then AI Inside. So yeah. And I'm sure Mishaal's got 20 articles to write, so he's got that to look forward to. All right, everybody. Thank you for being here. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.